There you are. You're still connecting to audio.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Hi. And
Hi.
you're wearing my shirt.
Yes, I am. I'm absolutely wearing your shirt.
Great. If I may say so myself.
You what?
I said it looks great, if I may say so myself.
Thank you. I am very, very comfortable in it. It's just like wearing, I don't know.
Which one? Is this the M1 or the Alice? Is this the M shirt? Yes, it is.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is the M shirt. Yes.
Yes. And you can't see the detail when I'm sitting, but
yes.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah. And it
Love,
hits just where I like it right here
Yeah.
on my hips.
Yes, great.
Hello. Yeah. So
Hi.
can you angle your, are you on a laptop?
No, I'm on
There
my
you go.
right, great. So you see me now?
I can see you now. Yes, yes. So how are you doing?
I'm good. Today we had awful weather. We had a lot, almost like a storm, but it's okay now. It's fine.
Yeah, I can see outside's a little bit
because I was worried when it was raining. I said, my God, she's not going to be able to hear me. But then it subsided eventually. It rained all night.
That was how loud it was, really?
Yes, yes.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, thank you. Let me start by saying that. Thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation. And as I've shared with you, you are one of the people that I've followed for as many years as I became aware of you, which was back in 2008.
Wow.
Or when was Caribbean Fashion Week? When did they start that?
Oh my God, much longer than that. I have something here. It was probably, I have one of the awards around me, and it was many years ago, 15 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you presented a collection there at, I think it was at the National Arena in Jamaica.
That's right. They always had it there. They always had it there. And I mean, I think that's when it all started. I mean, my name started to be known in the Caribbean.
Right.
Because and you know, they gave me like Caribbean Design of the Year. And then I won a Grandmaster Design. So Jamaica has been very good to me, and Jamaica has recognized my work for many years. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think I'm even more applauded there than I'm at home. But and also the Jamaica Observer with Novia White, you know, she's always ahead of time, always encouraging local creatives, especially in the fashion. Well, not only in fashion, because she does the culinary arts, she does anything to do with art and the vibe of an island, she's always promoting.
Yeah. So that was where I first saw you, and I was just blown away by the seeming simplicity of your designs. I mean, they look very clean, very elegant, but the details are surprising. You know, there are details that are unexpected.
It was because you know, and sometimes my work is viewed as being boring, but to me it's minimal. My tagline is less is more. Mm-hmm. And it's I always do have some sort of twist, which is almost a surprise, where there could be merely the lining that only you, the garment, who is wearing the garment, knows.
Right.
But to me, there's always some little twist, some little surprise, from almost like, you know, I love doing white shirts. Mm-hmm. So it's about reinventing the shirt all the time and bringing it back with a twist.
And that almost seems, would you say it's harder? It's a harder thing to do because you're continually revisiting that shape, that silhouette, and having to rethink it. You're always ahead of the curve in that way.
Well, I never knew. I knew it was difficult, but I think it was also an innate thing about me being very simple, very classic, basic. Mm-hmm. And I remember doing a show in Barranquilla, and it was all black. It was called no, it was called Noah, and they said Negra, but it was called Noah, and it was all black, and it was very classic, simple silhouettes. And after the collection, because it was people showing, designers showing from all over the Caribbean and South America, your collection was taken to the green room where you would have someone, this gentleman from New York, would come almost like a critique to tell you, because it was encouraging trade and showing us how we could get better to export to the rest of the world. And the first thing when he saw my collection, he said, I see that you, he called Watanabe, which is one of my favorite Japanese designers. And he said, oh, I can see that you are inspired by the Japanese. He says, and I want to tell you this, your work is very minimal and it's very difficult to do minimal. He said, to be able to edit is quite, people think it's easy, but it's one of the most difficult things to edit your work.
Yeah.
To know where to stop, to know where to take off that extra button or extra pleat. And that resonated with me. And probably I was doing it but not being conscious of how that it is something difficult to do. But now that I've grown and learned more and continue to learn, and I look at other design, I can see, especially when I'm mentoring, that sometimes you have to know when to stop.
Right. and fashion isn't really, known. Most of fashion isn't really known to do that. It's mostly some of it can be really over the top.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And, there are people who like over the top. I know that I say to one, I have a friend who is also a designer, and I say, well, my tagline is less is more. And he always says, when mine is more is more. I said, but it works. It depends on who your consumer is and who will understand what you're doing.
So with that in mind, do you have a specific woman in mind when you're designing these pieces? What is your process?
Well, my process is, it took me many years to find my voice. And it takes any designer or artist or writer, any creative person takes a long time before they find their voice and really tap into it. So I knew that I always liked doing shoots, and I always like very minimal things. And I think coming back to Trinidad at a time when there were no designers, I almost I say in one, okay, I'm talented and I give good service, but I think timing is everything in fashion. Mm-hmm. So at that time, I sort of grew my tribe who believed in me, and now I'm dressing like third generation. And that woman would, if she came to me for the first time, she would either continue with me because she liked my aesthetic, or she would move on to something else, a designer who gave her more, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. Or she may wear more than one Caribbean designer. But I think that when I'm designing for a woman who is very conscious of quality, a woman who doesn't want anything to shout, that thinks that sexy doesn't mean, or sensuous doesn't mean exposing everything. You can have on a high neck shirt and it's just what you give off. Mm-hmm. And I think over the years, I've found people like, when people want white things, they know to come to me. When they want a white shirt, they come to me. So I know that I would say that my muse is really a woman who is very confident in her own skin, or who can listen and learn and find her right points and would listen to me as a creative and take my advice. So that's the woman I love to dress. And a woman who has her own spirit. She's not just my hanger. She's not my clothes horse. Right. She has her own expression, and her voice comes out. What she's wearing makes her beautiful, but she isn't beautiful without my dress or without my shirt.
That is wonderful. That's a great sign. And whenever I see the images that you post, I get that. I get that the woman is wearing your pieces, but it's not that the piece is wearing them. You see the personality of the woman come out. And, in just wearing this shirt, for me, clothing, it shouldn't be, I should not be conscious of the clothing that I'm wearing. I should be able to move easily through my day and not be distracted by it.
Absolutely. You walk into a room or you go into your office and you have on something that is beautiful or comfortable, but you don't have to be pulling or fixing or, thinking about,
Yeah, I agree. And, I joke around throughout the pandemic, I wore a lot of loungewear, those jogger suits that
But he did.
everybody
Yes.
was wearing. But we can't now, we're opening back up, and I would love to bring that into the world, but I can't, but
Yeah.
your clothes, your pieces give that sense of elevated, I don't want to use the word leisure, but elevated
You
comfort.
comfort. I would say comfort is a thing, and also too, the woman, when you ask me who I like, a woman who is not necessarily jumping from trend to trend.
Right.
Is not, just buying because it's the fashion at the time. I want someone who finds a style, and again, it takes time to find your style, and you wear, and you might go with the trends, you go with the trends, but not every trend is going to suit, and everything is for everyone, for every woman.
Right.
And she has to learn her body type, her personality, what works, her colors, what works best on her. And I think that's the woman I like to dress.
Mm-hmm. So, can you share with me some of the women that you've dressed in, and some of the people that you've worked with?
Well, I think most of Trinidad, one of the women that I dress and I continue to dress is Wendy Fitzwilliam, who is our Miss Universe.
Yes.
And I remember Wendy telling me that she saved her money when Wendy was first brought to me to model when she was 15. And I don't like to take girls, so she was beautiful. She stood right here where I'm standing, and she came in a convent uniform, and she was brought in by this woman, Alison Brown, who would coach my models. And she said, I have this young girl for you. And I looked at Wendy. She was already but quite taller than I. And I thought, what a beautiful young, but I said, Alison, 15, let her go, let her finish school, or give her 2 more years and then come back. And she came back, and she's modeled for me. I worked on her dress with Peter Minshall for the Miss Universe contest. And Wendy always tells a story that she saved all her pocket money for her first mailing dress, and she still has that dress up to this day, a little linen dress, and she still wears it. I've worked with Wendy. I've worked with a lot of I wouldn't say celebrities as such, but I think women in their own field, lots of lawyers, attorneys, people who go up for these competitions. I've dressed a lot of the women in Trinidad who were like the fashion plates of Trinidad, artists, and now their children are coming here, and their grandchildren I'm dressing. So, it's across the board.
Right.
Of who.
Right.
I've also, one of the highlights was like 2018, I was invited to go to Buckingham Palace to represent Trinidad for the Commonwealth Fashion, and that was a big highlight. And then my piece was taken to the opening of the FIT Fashion Museum. So I worked with, and Swarovski Crystal had invited me to come to their offices and choose crystals that I could work with. And, so I think the spirit of a woman, she doesn't have to be a movie star or anything, but I just enjoy someone who has a voice and confidence. And not to say that there aren't women who come in here who are just trying to find their style. And of course, I will be very gentle, and eventually we'll work well together.
Wow. I'm glad that I was able to actually get my first 2 pieces from you this year. And yes, I did save up for those. And I thought, these are pieces that I will wear for years to come. And they are that timeless, Yeah.
And that's what I like, that things are timeless. And now, the buzzword, well, not only fashion and everything, it's sustainability. And I think that sustainability is the word, and a lot of fashion brands are trying to get there, to cut out all the fast fashion and like the Zara's, although I see Zara is trying, and H&M trying to change their model. So it's no modern day slavery where they have women huddled in India with factories collapsing, or child labor, or the dyes that they use for their fabrics. And I think sustainability, I say we do it in the Caribbean without even knowing, because we don't have any huge factories. we do not overproduce. Other designers like myself like to work in natural fibers. Our staff are well treated, most of them being women. We take care of our staff. And so I think we have been doing slow fashion for a long time. And when I see that either last year or the year before, a client of mine, I had this client and she was almost, I would say she was like a Jackie Onassis. She was Trinidadian.
Yeah.
She dressed beautifully and she came to me for all her things. And about 2 years ago, her daughter called me and said, I have something to bring for you to work on. And she brought me this dress. Her mother had died, and she said, going through her wardrobe, she saw, they knew my name in the house, that everything the mother always had my label. So she pulled 3 pieces and she said, I want to keep these. And she brought this dress that I had made for her, that her mother wore to her brother's wedding. And now she wanted to wear it to the brother's child's wedding. And I just the dress was in mint condition. We brought it up to 2020,
Right.
up to this time. It was just a very classic dress. So we took off the lining and we made it younger. And she wore it, and the dress was perfect. And to me, that was so wonderful that, that is sustainability. When something can be timeless, both in design and in quality. It held its own for many years. It was actually 43 years. It was 43 years.
Wow. And I imagine that gives an element for you of your presence in these really pivotal or important events in the lives of women that are marked, that they adorn with your clothing to experience.
Yeah, and they remember them, and we have they're bringing their daughters for their first communion dresses, and that dress is passed on to another. And sometimes they laugh because they would come to me and they said, well, we want this new thing. And I said, well, I'm doing myself out of business, but if you have these beautiful black evening trousers, why are we making a whole new outfit? Let's do something, just a new top, or let's do, and because I feel that especially now, people have to become conscious of how they're buying and what they're buying. I think the Gen Zs are the ones that are being very conscious. They are the ones who are trying to save our planet. They're the ones who are not overspending. They want to see quality. They want to know who is making their clothes. Right. They don't want to just buy something that is in a sweatshop, made in a sweatshop. And that, to me, although there are not as many sales, or I'm selling less if that person comes in. But to me, that is part of being conscious of what is happening to Mother Nature and being part of the movement to try and be, just don't let everybody overspend and not every trend, and know what you're buying and be conscious of not doing too much or not buying every new trend that comes in. Right.
And, a lot of these clothes I know they end up in these massive warehouses where, they're just wasted. It's just wasted.
They're landmass. It's horrible. Last, our first lockdown, which happened last March, and it went on till about July. And I thought, what am I going to do? It was a little bit, it was crazy because I think this one emotionally is impacting on everyone, because this time we know it's getting serious, there are more deaths, but then we didn't. And I thought, what can I do besides design and read? So I decided to do a course with London College of Fashion on sustainability in fashion. Wow. Not for a degree or anything, but I just thought it was a lot of reading, but I learned so much. I learned so much. You got me back?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. So it was quite something, right, to know that, that we wear clothing and we don't really think too much or what fabrics, or the chemicals that go into it. And sustainability is not an easy thing, because the chain goes so deep. There are a lot of things, but whatever you can do can help, in Trinidad now, people are going back to vintage. They're buying young people are buying vintage again. They're buying, I have a friend who's opened this shop, and she goes to the clothing sales, someone leaving the country, and she takes those clothing. Some of them I help her restyle, and then she sells them. And I think that's good. I think,
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's definitely, like you say, the Gen Z, they're very, very conscious of this. And they are, whereas, like my generation, I don't know, we would think twice before wearing something that has been repurposed or even, but there is a consciousness around what's happening with the planet and the waste, as we talked about. And so, and I also think that's a really sound business plan. I think that there will be a need for this type of product in the future. And if you're consulting on this, I mean, that's, to me, that's definitely the way of the future in terms of fashion. How do we use what exists and repurpose it and remarket it,
Yeah.
So we jumped right into the conversation and I'm loving it. I wanted to, so of course I did some reading around just, you growing up in Trinidad. And I wanted to ask for you to just share with us in your own words, the impact that your parents had on you and the influence that they had on you in your formative years as you decided to become a designer and built the foundation to build a brand.
So yeah, I think my parents were very, very, very influential. I got the talent from my mother, who was one of Trinidad's leading needlewomen in Trinidad. So I literally grew up in her, which was a bedroom at home, sewing room, among the magazines and the fabrics and everything. I dressed my dolls till I was like probably 15. And she just had just herself and two ladies sewing. And I used to nag them to try and teach me how to sew. And every magazine that came in, I was like all over it. And then I started doing the hand beading on wedding dresses. My mother taught me. And I knew from an early age, I tell people, I remember clearly, I went to St. Joseph Convent, St. Joseph, and I did, at 11, I had to write this essay of what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I said I wanted to be a fashion designer.
You knew then?
I knew then. And my father was academic. We grew up in a very humble home. My parents they provided a lovely, loving home for me. But like my father didn't have a car. We lived in St. Augustine. He was a soil technician at the University of the West Indies, before it was the University of the West Indies. And I was his only daughter by my mother's second marriage. And he could not understand how his only daughter or his only child who he adored could make a living being a fashion designer. He didn't understand. Once he did, and my mother was rooting for me because she was living like vicariously through this life that I wanted, So he said yes, but it would have to be Europe. It would have to be the UK because he was very anti-America. And so I went to I left and went in the late 60s to London. And I just didn't, then I didn't know much about art schools. I didn't even do art at school. And I went for a diploma course at a very sort of a school that taught me. It was a very shishi school on New Bond Street. And it was in the heart of fashion. And of course, I took everything. And then I stayed and I worked for a little bit, as a designer. First, I interned with a wonderful firm. And I said for a year, all I did was make tea, sweep the floor, go to the Oxford Street Gazette.
Oh my goodness.
That's what I would intern. So when interns come here, I said, for a year, I wasn't allowed to pick up a pencil or design or anything. It was wonderful because I learned so much. And when I got back, and I was in London at such an exciting time. I was there in the swinging 60s, the Beatles, Mary Quant, Courage boots, the mini skirt, Otis Redding, the Stones. I was a flower child. It was an amazing, amazing time. So after about 4 years, I came back home, much to my chagrin. I didn't want to come home, after living in a apartment.
Ask that. Did you want to return to Trinidad?
Oh, it was very difficult because, listen, when a young girl is living in an apartment in London, which is crazy, with 3 other young girls who are all studying, and you come back home and you have to go home to mommy and daddy. You know, it's like,
A
you
little bit
know,
of a culture shock there. Yeah. Little bit
I
of
know
an adjustment.
it's a shock in terms of fashion because you're coming back to an island where fashion is like, you know, like so far behind in what's happening in the rest of the world. My mother said to me, well, now you have your, you know, you are a designer, you're not joining here, you have to go out and find a job. At that time, the industry of my industry, fashion industry, was very, very vibrant, not so much in design, but lots of factories, you know, shirt factories, lots of fabric shops. So I just went and I found, and I have to say, I worked in this, they made like hundreds of dresses. It was mass production, a little bit behind the times, everything. And there I was even a design. I was just like making patterns and grading and learning and trying, and all my designs would be thrown out because they were too forward until they found one classic shirt dress that they made thousands and thousands. And I said to my mother, you know, I want to start a shop. After about a year, and I started in a little room, probably as big as this. And then just by my parents I was so disciplined in terms of keeping deadlines, keeping times, being on time, you know, delivering on time, being gracious to my clients, listening, and my mother, in terms of what she didn't let me get away with any shoddy work. My work was like, it was like with a fine-tooth comb she would go through, and she would say, you know, if this woman got up in the morning and put on a dress on the wrong side, she should be able to step out the door and nobody would know she was that. So many, it was frustrating to me at times, and then I think eventually they became very proud. My mother trained a lot of the women who came to work with me, who are still with me after how many years?
Yeah.
So I think they were very instrumental of where I am. And I'm thinking, you know, I look at even young people who come and mentor or not intern with me. And sometimes I think, my God, you know, they don't have the energy that I still have. And I know my parents said, you know, my mother used to say, you know, if this dress has to be delivered at 4 o'clock, that dress up to today, we know, my staff know it has to be hung by 2. Trinidadians would be late, but I don't want anybody to come in early and I'm not ready. So
Right.
I think why the name has withstood, besides, of course, if I wasn't creative, I wouldn't be here, but I think it's the service we give. And I mean, I have clients who've stayed with me and know their children, their grandchildren, and I think that is very important.
Yeah, yeah. And so with this foundation, as you developed your aesthetic, you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that it takes a while for that to develop.
Yeah.
To find
Yes. Where did I find? So I think I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking, like, I only wear black. So I am like a creature of habit, you know, like I would wear only black. I could eat the same thing every day. I have routines that I follow. And I wore uniform all through my school days. We had a uniform, you know, white shirt and a skirt. And somehow I kept thinking this shirt, I was always trying to make sure that the shirt would look crisp. And probably it came from there. Now I only I wear mostly shirts and trousers. So I think that maybe started a thing, like I love a uniform. And then I started designing shirts and bringing into my shirts like the hand stitching or any sort of detail. My mother taught me like the old-fashioned touches of embroideries that we still do use today. And I always felt that part of the sustainability too is that, I mean, there's such technology in the world today. There's so many machines, there's so many different fabrics, there's so many, you can do whatever, things that I haven't thought about, they're there. But to try and have many of my garments touched by human hands, not only on the machine, but embroidered. Right. And that has worked for me, because I think when people see, like, if anyone saw you and they saw that odd button on the shirt, they will know it's mine. If they saw the embroidery, the stitching, they'll know it's mine. So a designer should have some sort of signature that can be recognized. And that, I think that learning these touches from my mother, and as I say, I love doing white shirts or shirts on the whole. So each time I'm reinventing the shirt and bringing it with a new look.
Right, right. And as you do this each season, do you follow the seasons per se, the seasons of fashion? Do you go according to, like a summer collection, a fall collection?
We don't really, but I do one collection because besides manufacturing to sell to some of the shops in the region,
Mhm.
I have my retail shop. So at Christmas time, that's the time when everybody's buying. So I do my main collection in November, like mid-November. And then during the year, I'd have little capsule collections because we don't have seasons. So I would have a capsule, like I just brought out a whole set of new shirts. And then again, I will do, like resort. And what we found is that Carnival really took over in terms of all these parties before Carnival. Long ago, people would buy dresses for New Year's Eve in Trinidad. That was crazy time, everybody.
Mhm.
Now people go to Tobago for New Year's Eve. But as soon as they get back, they're going to all the inclusive parties and people dress for these parties. I mean, they dress like resort, beautiful cotton dresses. So that is when I'm designing my Christmas collection, it's with things that I know that can take them somewhere else. So, but even now with this lockdown, I started doing beautiful pajamas.
You did?
Yeah, so people now, and their fashion, they're like cotton, like gingham shirt or white pajamas, and people say they've been wearing them to Zoom meetings because it just looks like you're on a fabulous shirt. And I think that a lot of designers have segued, as you say, you wear a lot of you wore like sweats to work or at home. So people are now looking for comfy clothes.
Yes.
Although I think now that the vaccine is here and America is waking up again and they're getting ready for their fashion week, and women love to dress up. They cannot wait to dress up again. So I think you're going to see real clothes coming back.
Coming back. Yes, that's true. I definitely think we're moving out of the phase of leisure wear all the time.
Yes, yes,
Not going to transition into, opening up, I don't think. I don't think, but yeah, I did not know that you did pajamas. I would have been interested in those.
I'll send you a picture. I'll send you a
Yes,
picture.
send me a picture of those because I love a good pajama.
Yes,
I
yes.
love a good pajama. So, you were talking about the lockdown and how you've had to rethink and pivot as the market has changed. So, can you share a little bit more about that?
Yes. So as they say, pivot is the new black in the fashion industry. Everybody has to pivot.
Everybody has to pivot.
So at first I had to really figure this whole thing out, but I have to give Novia McDonald, who writes, she's a style editor of the Jamaica Observer. She is always a step ahead, and she would not allow us to just, she said you have to keep thinking of where you're going. You can't just say, oh, me, there's no business. Mm-hmm. So the first thing she did was to have a virtual fashion show on the Jamaica Observer site. And what she did, she asked designers from every island. I think it was Robert Young of the Cloth and myself, and from the Bahamas and Barbados, to do a small fashion film. So we did a film and everybody presents. So we had to do a little collection. I mean, mine was all white and it was very simple. And what I did, I took things from my shop. Yes, last year.
September, right? Or like last year.
Yeah.
So it was during the pandemic.
Yeah, so I had just done things for my shop. So I was able to pull those dresses and I think we were open again. So I just made a few things and we did that. So that was one way. And then I had to really look out of Trinidad to the region. And thank God, as I said, I always paid attention to my Instagram. Mm-hmm. So I was getting people coming, like yourself, people asking for things and that we would ship to them. And then I don't know if you've seen, I think I've sent you pictures from Papio, this beautiful site. And she reached out to me and she was starting this very, very beautiful, curated artisanal style line. And she asked me if I wanted to be on it. And I'm on that. Then they opened this beautiful shop in Jamaica. called Island Magnolia, and they kept me last year because they ordered. They were opening the shop. They knew my work for many years, and they were the ones that really kept my business going last year because the line did very well, and you know they're selling it very well. So really, I cannot at the moment now. My challenge is even the retail shops of fabrics are closed. So even if I'm getting orders, I'm asking people to hold out a little bit for me. Actually, I think right now the Prime Minister is speaking, so I don't know when they're going to open up. He's probably going to when they're opening up. But we have to find new ways of getting our work out of. You can't just think about Trinidad. You have to be open to the rest of the world, and that's the way I think I was pivoting. I also had to pivot which was it was the hardest thing to do, to tell my staff that we couldn't come on a 5-day week. You know, we had to stagger it. We do 3 days a week until the business picked up that we could be financially set to continue. And plus, you know, people were still not shopping because people are scared about coming out. So retail here had really dried up. So really it's about looking out of Trinidad. And this is what I tell a lot of young people, you know, when with Instagram and Facebook and this virtual world, you know, your competition or it's not the designer, the Trinidadian designer who stands next to you. It is the world. It is the world, you know, and the world has become so small, and with Instagram, they can reach out to you anywhere. So you have to be ready to want to deliver quality garment, and also have, you know, be on timely. But you know, Lisa, the other thing that I love is what I'm doing, and why I'm bringing this up now, because someone asked me this. They said, you know, there are people always saying to me, well, they ask about succession, which I'm still trying to figure out in my mind. Although I tell them I'm going to be here for a long, long time again. They're always saying, so what do you love most about your job? And I love my job, whether it's this, that we're going through a hard time. I was telling someone that when I came back, although there were no sales, I just loved opening this door because my home is right here as well, and just figuring it out. And I said to one, you know, I really love working. I really trying to figure out the next step to take. And also mentoring, which has come to me in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, having to mentor young designers, people, and all creatives in my shop. My shop is here, and it's a tiny shop, but I front some of the jewelry designers, a girl who does turbans, another one who does belts and bags. And I love mentoring and sharing my stories with these young people. And sometimes I don't carry them. They ring me and I say, yeah, you come on Saturday mornings. I usually see them and I just say, just tell me. Some of them haven't got a line as yet. And sometimes it just roots out, we chat. And I find it's so important for someone to give back. Right. It's so important, I feel, to help someone who's coming after you. I've had interns from London, one from Germany. They reach out to me and they want to come, and all I say to them is, you know, when you come, we can't babysit you. You either swim or sing. The women who work for me are very helpful, but you're on your own. You just have to figure it out. And they have, you know, enjoy it. And some of them now, one runs their own business in London. So it's to me, that is a very important part of what I do.
Yeah, because it's like bringing your legacy forward. It is your legacy, you know. You're sharing your knowledge with people, and that's something that I think about a lot. Masters like you are so essential. It is so essential to pass on that knowledge, because when I think about all the knowledge that we lose because of technology, because of just being so disparate in different parts of the world, not as connected, you know, it makes me think we really need to come back to this idea of connection and transfer of knowledge, or sharing of knowledge.
That's so important. And the other thing that I totally believe in, and I've done it almost all my career, is collaboration. I think it is so important to collaborate. And I think, so I've collaborated with textile designers, with jewelers, with carnival makers, costume designers, collaborating all the time, and it's a way of sharing, and I think it's also a way of bringing community back, which is so important now. And collaboration, as I tell the young ones, you know, Trinidad is a small place, and why then do three of you get together? One would be a good illustrator, designer, one good at business, and come together. This is what fashion does. You see big companies, you see Louis Vuitton collaborating with other people, with musicians, with, you know, so why not, you know, I think collaboration excites me a lot, you know, of finding a way.
Oh, wait, and you've done several collaborations that I've seen as I follow you on social media. Would you like to share about any of them that you found perhaps surprising or interesting?
I think one of them, which you know, sometimes things happen in life and you never know what where it's going. So there was this young guy called Marcus. His line is called 𝐂𝐫𝐬𝐚𝐭𝐢𝐶, and he Chinese, mixed, and he would every time when he first lived in went to school in America. His parents are somewhere in America, I think in the South, and then went to China he was doing finance, but very great stylist, very dandy the way he dressed. And when he came to Trinidad, everybody says, "Oh, you have to meet Meiling." And he would come and we'd chat about fashion, and we'd always say, "Oh, one day we're going to do something." And he told me the other day he's back here living in Trinidad, and we did a collaboration called 𝐂𝐫𝐬𝐿𝐵𝐻 XM. And he said why he came back here, he does men's fashion and he does some women, is because of me. And I thought, he said, you know, each time he came, you know, you would encourage me. And I think sometimes parents don't understand their children going into the fashion industry, like my father didn't understand, and they can't see how it will work. And I felt so good that he came back, and eventually we did a collaboration together. You know, I've done carnival. Sometimes I get together with, not for bands. Well, I've worked a lot with Peter Minshall, who is our the star.
I've read about him.
And I would say he also taught me a lot. Like I would say he is my master, because I didn't study costume, but I learned so much from him. And you know, we are good friends now. And you know, if I want a second eye, I would always call him to look at what I'm doing. So I think a lot of simple. I did another collaboration with a big, which was like, you know, sometimes you would see H&M tagged up with a big designer. So this was a friend of mine who has a big, I mean, he makes his clothes in China, and he said, "Would you do a line for me?" It was made in China. I did all the prototypes, and that, I mean, people up to the day say, "Oh my God," you know. It made, at that time, people knew the name Meiling, but it made it affordable, that they could go and buy a dress for $200. And that helped push my name more. So I meet people up to today that will say, "Oh, you know, I still have this dress," and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So that was a great collaboration as well, to see that I could design whatever, and I didn't have to figure out how to make it. It was just made, you know, I would make this thing and just send it. So that was good. So,
boy, talk about pivot.
To me, the life of a designer.
Go ahead.
And every time you come in here, I say to people, it's stressful some days, but no, it's never boring.
Right, right.
It's never
and
boring.
That's truly I would imagine the life of a designer or entrepreneur is. And if you enjoy it and you're always looking to, you know, solving the challenges, it's a dream.
Yes.
It's definitely a dream.
Yes,
So I wanted to ask you, your boutique and your workspace is in your home, is that correct? And your home is
so I live in this. You must have seen my home on Instagram. Actually, I'm posting something tomorrow morning on story of it. So it's like all, if you think of the homes in New Orleans, you know, a lot of fretwork and veranda, and then, so I grew up in the east of Trinidad, because that's where my parents, when I came, my parents said, "Oh, you know, well, we should have you in Port of Spain, because that's where everything is happening." And they bought the house in the 70s. And then I lived here. And then we developed the workshop behind, and my shop used to be at another hotel. And then eventually, because of the rents, I moved it here, which was made it much better because then I'm in contact all the time with my clients. And really, I have to say the retail part of it, I'm not crazy about the retail part, being in the shop. I mean, I will go, when people come, I have someone running the shop, but I'll go and help them. But sometimes it's you feel something is very close to you, and almost you feel, oh, how do you know, not embarrassed, but how, because it's beautiful. So, to sell it is a specific, until you get to know the person.
Right.
So now I can say, oh, Lisa, I have something. I know I can ring them. I know this. And they say, my God, you could choose for me. But it's a little bit too close to home selling something. But I also do a lot of made to measure, and I do wedding dresses.
I was going to ask you that because the other day, I am not married. Maybe one day I will get married. But I thought, well, who would I want to design my wedding dress? And I immediately thought of you. And I thought, but I've never seen any images of wedding dresses made.
Well, soon you will see, because my website is now under construction, and we have you'll see all my wedding dresses. And it's really wedding dress, the whole, the production of doing a wedding dress could be fabulous, or sometimes
a disaster,
or it could be stressful.
Yeah.
Because women, I would have a client who would be so avant-garde, and when she gets when it comes to wedding, she becomes so traditional, and then you have the times that they come in and people I always tell my class, so creatives will work best when you trust us. So you come in and you tell me, you give me a brief, and we figure out what the design is going to be. But after that, but I suppose it's the nerves of a bride. They would call and they would, I had one that she wanted her train. As we went along, the train got longer and longer, the dress got bigger and bigger. But I enjoy it. It's a special thing.
It's a special occasion. Yeah. And so in that process, I'm curious, does the bride come in and share with you, as you mentioned, give you the brief, and then you do a drawing, I would imagine?
So if I know the bride, if she's a client, she would come in and she'd say, oh, I was thinking so. And I say, okay, well, we come back and we sketch it. If I don't know the bride, and some people come to me just for that, I would say, could you, we would sit, and I would say, do you want something that is are you girly, or are you very minimal, or very tailored? Tell me a little bit about yourself, or do you have anything? So they'll show me something on their phone, or they'll WhatsApp me something. And with that, then I will go back to the drawing board, and then they will come and they will see the process, and then we choose the fabrics, and then we will, decide what, and it will be toing and froing. Sometimes I don't like when they bring too many people with them, because then you're dealing with many different, different opinions.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you like routine, you have these routines. So I would imagine that there's some things that you do, especially during this time of COVID, to help to ground and center you and keep your creative fires going. What are some of those things?
Well, even out of COVID, I'm a morning person. I love the morning. And I think I also got that from my parents, that we all got up early in the morning. And so I won't tell you what time my alarm goes off, because you'll think I'm crazy. But
tell me, please tell me.
Because you'll have to know what time. So a lot of the women who work with me are grandmothers, so they want to come in early and they want to leave early. Believe it or not, the first person gets here at 5 a.m. in the morning, because they want to get a ride and they want to leave by 1, so they could come home to help with their grandkids who are now coming back from school, because a lot of them are like 5 and 6.
Yeah.
So my alarm would go like at about 3:30, and I would give myself like an hour I'm a strong believer in meditation. So I have to put, if I don't get that time in meditation, prayer, my life is upside down. So I give myself, even now with COVID, I still don't get up as early, but I must give myself that hour. And I try to be here, and most of the time I am, before they arrive. So I'm in here like about 4:45, 5. And that's a lovely time because it's cool. The phone isn't ringing, although now people know, so they would ring me early for the early rises. And then I come in and then we discuss. I know every day what everyone is going to be with. So we would produce if it's something new. I will discuss it. We would look at it on the mannequin, the tool would be made. And then, so I go through and then I would be doing like interviews or designing or looking at new fabrics. So my day from 5 to 5 would be now. And then I also love to exercise. So sometimes in the afternoon, I'll take an hour to go out to with my trainer. Now, because of COVID, it's very difficult to be disciplined. I'll be disciplined in meditation to come in here, but I've now started breaking at about 11. I spend most of my time on the veranda because sometimes coming in here is a little bit difficult. You're seeing all these things hanging and there's nothing. So I take my sketchbook and my books. I listen to lots of podcasts. I listen to lots of interviews now on Instagram on fashion. I read, I love to do Scrabble, I love to do word games, all of this. And I'm curious about everything. I was saying to someone yesterday, my God, I'm reading so much, I'm learning so much. Yeah. So I think exercise, I think the two things that I have to, is that meditation that I do and exercise to keep mind and body together. And especially this time to keep because I think when you exercise, you feel much better. Spirit, you release endorphins, you feel better about yourself. And so that, and then I'm early to bed, as early to rise.
So what time are you going to bed? I'm curious.
So, I would like, most nights I turn my light at 9, but sometimes I'll go like 10, and now I can go a little bit later. I'm not people say, so, what are you missing? I'm not really a social person in terms of going to parties. I like to have people over I prefer conversation. They come, they have dinner, we have conversation. When it was open, we go to dinner and have conversation. So I think what has really been affected is my business. Yeah. That was the most thing. And seeing friends, and being, having time with them. But I try every day to be, and now I spend a lot of my time in my garden to take care of, because I'm so grateful that I have a home with a veranda and I sit on the green all around, and because it's quieter, the birds are there, and I'm enjoying it. And you just take every day as it comes. You can't plan. And just with gratitude, I'm a strong believer in gratitude.
Wow, that sounds like, so one of the, you may not know this about me, I don't think I shared this with you, but I'm a yoga and meditation teacher. So it's it's not at all surprising that you meditate, because I get that from you in your just your presence, even online. It translates through the communication.
So what is your what do you do? What type of meditation? Are you Buddhist? Are you TM?
So
what?
I'm doing now, I study with a teacher called Tracy Stanley, and she does tantric meditation. So it's seated meditation with very specific pranayama.
Yeah. And that comes with the yoga as well. Yes. Because I used to do a lot of yoga. I just now have an app and I've been starting to do it again.
Yeah, those two things are my what I call non-negotiables. Those are the things that carried me through the pandemic.
It's important.
And, yeah, it's really important because, as you say, there are just all of these things happening during the pandemic that encroach, and there's this idea of mental health, not an idea, the decrease in people's mental health, and those practices I'm a firm believer in, because they got me through. And you mentioned being in your home around, is that a mango tree?
It's a Julie mango tree that is over 100 years old.
Wow.
Got fabulous mangoes from it.
I'm sure. Julie's one of my favorites. Julie and Bombay.
Yes,
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 I
yes.
really envy the people in the Caribbean and in the tropical climates now.
Yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned reading and enjoying reading. What are you currently reading? Something that you're enjoying,
Mm-hmm.
and what?
Yeah, I'm reading. Actually, I started it and then I put it down and I said I have to pick it up again because I met him when he's New York as a fashion thing.
Yeah.
It's Dapper Dan who has his shop in. And I met Dapper Dan in year before last when I was last in New York, probably the time before in Harlem. And I got his book and I started reading and put it down. So I started reading it again. I also picked up the other morning Derek Walcott because he has this beautiful book of poetry that I knew Derek very well. I made both his daughters, I made their wedding dresses. And I picked up his work, but I read a lot of fashion information, like Business of Fashion I read.
Yeah.
And but I was saying, I listened to something and I will share this with you. I think I said to someone that reading to me, like some of my friends, the ones who party, they think like I must be the most boring. And I said this to them many years ago, and they said, but you should be out partying. And I said, all you do is read. And I said, reading is in no way. I meet so many new characters. I travel to so many countries. The language in some of them is so descriptive. You feel that you are there. Right. And I listened to this. It was Italian Vogue did this last week. It was a whole week where they interviewed, sometime in English, sometime in Italian. I looked at the English ones about reading. It was called The Week of Words because they were talking to different authors. And they interviewed this guy. I can't remember his name offhand. He wrote The Hours. You remember that movie, The Hours?
Yes.
Did you see The Hours? Beautiful.
I remember
movie.
Hearing about it. I don't know that I saw it. What was it? What was the premise of it?
Woman, and you look at it because it's a great movie.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, and he said that, and at the end of the interview, they said to him, "What does literature mean to you?" And he said something that resonated so much with me. He said, "Literature is my best companion."
Oh.
And I thought that is so, because I hate to be caught anywhere without something to read, whether it's a magazine or you go to a doctor's office, you have a book, or on a flight. I think both my parents were avid readers. My mother read up to 8ish. She was like reading so much. I love reading Caribbean authors. I love Marlon James.
I was gonna just say, do you read Marlon James?
So Marlon James, I'll tell you the story. Marlon James, we have a Vocus Lit Fest here every year, and I met Marlon James, but I didn't know too much about him. I think this was in maybe 2010, and then I read the Book of Night Woman.
Yes,
so I
was
read
my introduction to him.
A Book of Night Woman, and probably I'll send you those pictures. And I did. That was what my collection was based on. I took it and I decided that this would be, and I had read it, but I reread it. And I met with Wendell Manwaring, who's worked a lot. Wendell is an actor, a real scholar, very in touch with Caribbean writers, with Minshall. He's done a lot of work with Minshall, a lot of book. Derek Walcott took him all over the world. And I said to Wendell, I want you to read this book, because he worked a lot with my shoes, and I want you to direct the show. So he read Marlon, the Book of Night Woman, and then he got because he works with a lot of young people mentoring who act and sing. And he had like a cast which told the story to the clothes. So the clothes would come down. They told the story first. It was like a short story about the different characters, and then after that my collection came down the round.
Wow.
And it was in a small space. It was at the Black Box Ranch alone, so we must have seated about, and it was open air. And the amazing thing was, I must tell you, that night there was a moon above us. It was like everything just worked. It was magical. And what I did, the black box, which is the name of the space, is like maybe an 8-minute walk from here. So I dress my models here and we walk through the streets.
Oh my goodness, you're giving me goose pimples.
Through the park, there's a big square. Through the square, I'm just up the road, and then they entered. So it was and I mean, that was one of my favorites. And that was a collaboration too, because I had this artist make these masks, remember? These masks. And the mask was she sewed the mask, each mask was different. And so, and it was one of my favorite collections, you know, the dresses all in grays and blacks with the aprons, like what the women wore when they worked in the field, and different things, you know, that echoed, you know. And then I had this black dress, which was, I might have to send you some of these images. And the back, the dress looked like black, but the back open with these red cotton, everything was in cotton, so it showed like the blood. And then, you know, of the slaves. I mean, it was a collection that was, it was sad reading the book and seeing, but to me it was exciting.
Right.
Working on, and then 2 years after, maybe, Marlon came back for Bucas and we reenacted, not the fashion, but we reenacted. And he's very quiet and he doesn't like, so first we didn't even know if we would get him there, because he doesn't like, you know, he doesn't like people phoning all over. And he just came. I don't think many people knew he was there. He stood up, it was outside again, and he stood. And afterwards, when he said, you know, I cried because I never thought that it would be, you know, because the acting was very good. The girl who read the story, you know, parts. Yeah. So, but that was a very, very special collection to me. Night Woman. It was called Night Woman.
That sounds amazing. I wonder, I always wonder, in these events, Meiling, do people record them, and are they available to be rewatched, or is it just a once in a lifetime experience?
I don't think that one was recorded, but like one of the ways that I think this one you can get, or I can get you, the last collection that I did was Looking for Joy.
Looking for Joy.
So that you should find. I'll look for these things and see if I can send them. So because of the pandemic, I thought I couldn't have a fashion show where I had people in the room. So I rang Wendell and said, Wendell, I'm filming my collection. And it's going to be Looking for Joy.
Wow.
So it was just 12 pieces. All the models were 12 female pieces. We had male as well, because I have a designer who works with men's collection. And the collection again was all in black and gray. And all the models were masks. And it was about looking for joy. And the joy was a red line that ran through the collection. So every dress would have like either the lining would be red or piping would be red. And the collection was called Looking for Joy.
I love that interpretation in the work that you do. It's just so, it kind of just like gets you right in the heart, you know. It's just like, yes, I can feel that. I can feel that sentiment. And it's something that, I don't know, you're able to translate really, really well. It's like,
sometimes it's difficult, and you go through a whole thing about, you know, I have a friend says, oh my God, sometimes you become like, because you're on edge and you don't know if you're doing it right, and you get very tense and you're snapping. You're trying not to snap, but just snapping, you know, because a collection you're putting, especially Caribbean people, are so critical. And also there are those who understand my work, but there's a whole group of people who don't understand my work. So they wouldn't understand. Actually, one of the dresses, Looking for Joy, I posted on this week. It was a black dress and it's crocheted sleeves. I think it was posted 2 days or 3 days ago.
Oh, I saw that dress. Yes.
That was Looking for Joy. And she wore a mask with it. But so you're putting yourself out like any creative for scrutiny. I mean, not every collection is gonna fly. Some of them will bomb. But it's just the intense, you know, and especially somebody said to me, do you know that every time they know your collection, I just did another interview, I think it's coming out in the Jamaica Observer tomorrow. Every time you do a show and it's in the air, people are hyping us, what is what is she coming with this time? What is she going to do this time? And it's almost like an expectation that is sometimes puts a lot of pressure on you.
And how do you deal with that?
I guess meditation
Yeah.
or at first I used to be, when there were much bigger shows and reviews would come out and some of the reviews. And I always say, you know what? Consider this source. Not that everything I do is fabulous. I've done things that I didn't like, but looking back, but consider the source of the compliment or the criticism.
Right.
If I feel that this person, I know she's looking with an artist's eye, or if Minchell told me, well, that was good, but I think I would listen. If Wendell said that, I would listen.
That makes good sense. Definitely makes good sense. I have some fun questions for you. So
Okay.
to wrap up.
Yeah,
so-
we've been going on and on. You would
Yeah.
have to end.
So just a few questions more. So what fun fact about yourself most surprises others when they learn it? What facts about yourself?
Okay, I'm gonna give you a fun one. So
Yeah.
I live in black,
Uh-huh.
the day is in black, and I only sleep in white. White.
That is a fun fact.
And
Wow.
so now I've introduced a little bit, so it might be gingham, but it's never all black. I
Right.
once had all black pajamas, and somehow it wasn't, the energy wasn't there. So black and white. So someone said, I remember, oh, you live in your days in white and black and your nights are in white. And I said, yes. I think that's a fun fact.
That is a fun fact. I would agree. I would agree with you there. And do you dress yourself 100%?
I wear all my shirts, all my tops are mine, are black usually. Sometimes I get trousers from other designers. I'm not big on shopping, probably because my life is trying to tell people what to wear.
Right.
So I'm not big on it. I tell people even when so if I travel, I would buy shoes or accessories. And I said it's even very simple if I were to buy clothing. If I went to the shop and there's no black, well, that's it. But I'm not one of these people that shop. Shopping is not something that I love. I prefer to go to, the first thing I do is go to a bookshop.
Aha. Okay, that was a fun fact.
Yeah.
So other question. Who would you most love to share a meal with and why? This could be somebody that has already passed on or is still living.
I would love to, although if you're going to ask me who I'd like to dress, she might come. I would love to actually to share a meal. I think I'd like to share a meal with, I wish I could have shared a meal with 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐵.
Aha, of course.
Because she was such an interesting woman. She was a woman ahead of her time. And some people refer to me like the Chanel of the Caribbean, which I think is a huge compliment. But I love that she was always, as I said, ahead of her time and willing to take risks.
Mm-hmm.
And she went to the beat of her own drum.
And so since you brought it up, who would you most love to dress?
Oh, so I would love to dress Tilda Swinton.
I love her.
Because I just love her look, her hair.
No.
I love who she wears. I think, again, she's not one of these red carpet dresses that is wearing a strapless tight dress. She's out of the box. She's edgy. She's older woman. You could see she hasn't done much to her face with all the Botox and everything. I would love to dress for this with her.
Yeah, I think she's amazing. I remember there is this beautiful film that she made. It's something, there's love in the name. It's set in Italy.
I think I know this one.
Yeah, it's this family that's very wealthy and their home is so
opulent. Yeah, beautiful. Yes.
That's my favorite. And she has an affair with a younger man and all of this sort of a thing. I love her.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gone. Where did you go? Oh, there you go.
Come on, just.
So who inspires you? Which designers currently this are you're inspired by? Who are you inspired currently? Who's
I
girl?
think I think still the Japanese. I think 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐫𝐬𝐚 of 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐚𝐭𝐢𝐨𝐬. I mean, she's really out of the book, and it's only also always about. I mean, some of the things you think are not wearable, but again, I love her daring. Let me think about new young designers. I think. I mean, Karl Lagerfelder's gone, but I still kind of look at what the house is doing now. So I think many designers. Sometimes I try to keep up with everyone and all the young ones that are coming up to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think that fashion. I think this break in fashion was good because the designers were like on a treadmill trying to do 5 collections a year, and it was not gonna, even today or yesterday I was reading, what it did to their mental health.
Yeah.
Like, and funny, the article I was reading yesterday was speaking about the young Japanese tennis player Naomi.
Yes.
She stepped back and they referred, the woman was a fashion writer, but she referred to that saying, the pressure of the interviews is just like that. The pressure of designers when they present collections and they're churning these collections out because they have to do 5 collections a year. And she told the story she spoke about all that had happened, like Alexander McQueen couldn't take the pressure. He killed himself. John Galliano had that whole like meltdown.
Yeah.
And she even told the story about fashion writers said they would never forget themselves because Alexander McQueen had done the show, and they went backstage, and she said to him, "Oh, I think this was the weakest show you had ever done," and he burst into tears. And I think the press and fashion people are very cruel, and I imagine in the sports world is another story, but. Yeah. Sometimes the pressure that people put, so I'm glad that this pandemic made them slow. People are choosing when they're going to show. They're not 5 shows a week. Some of them have stepped away from the calendar completely. So I think this has been a good time. I think it's been good for creatives. I mean, not the business side, creatives of rethinking. I think it's been good for consumers. And I hope they don't come back with this buy everything on the internet. Even here, trying to encourage people that support local. Everybody's shopping online. What about supporting local?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Just in line with the sustainability and carbon footprints and being able to just buy closer to home. I just had a thought, as the fashion industry was speeding up from the business side of it, do you think that was impacted by the consolidation of most of the major houses into these mega conglomerates?
Absolutely. And if you saw that almost like, you'd have this design is now working for Lover, and then by the next season, there's another one and another one. And the conglomerate's not giving them time to prove themselves. So they are working with this huge pressure to produce to sell, that these people are going to kick me out if I don't sell. If this line bombs, well, they're not giving them time. And a lot of them turn to drugs or alcohol or whatever, so I think this pause has done, and hopefully the world is not going to be, well, I don't think the world is going to be the same, but it's,
I hope we're not going to speed up to, or try to speed up to, at least here, they seem to be gearing up and revving up again to pre-pandemic levels. And I'm just not sure that's sustainable.
Yes.
So what's next for Meiling? What's next for you?
So next to me, I'm working on a new resort line, which will be shown at, when are you airing this? When are you going to put this on?
I think I'm going to be putting this out in the next week. I plan to do it, unless you wanted me to do it at another time.
No. So what I'm doing is Papio is taking me to a trade show, a resort trade show, Cabana. And they're really getting me ready to to be on that luxury. As you know, she's creating this luxury site for Caribbean designers, and I'm just about finishing a collection that will be shown at this show, so that the line can be taken, definitely be taken out to Trinidad at a higher level that could sit in the luxury market. So that's what I'm working on now.
Great, that sounds amazing. And how can people connect with you? What if they want to purchase something, or if they want to just connect with you? Where are you?
Okay, so on Instagram, you can always DM me on Instagram, and then you can put up my Instagram handle at Meiling Inc. And soon, hopefully by July, my new website will be on, and a small shop will be on.
Okay, so you will have items available there. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Meiling, thank you so much. This has been
Oh,
treat.
yeah,
I could hardly contain my excitement, but I really enjoyed our conversation, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be with me today.
It was painless. I loved it. You know, it was so natural. I feel as though I've known you for a long time.
Same.
And easy, very easy.
One day, all I could think about as I look at you in your studio with the mango tree out the door is one day I come and sit with you there.
Yes, that would be lovely.